Welcome to Nephew and Uncle Basketball Banter. I am Ryan Woolley, the nephew, joined by my uncle and co-host David Scholler. And Uncle Dave, we're going to get started. We're with some NBA topics, per usual here.
Magic.
Yeah, we got Magic, the plush. How long have you had that plush Magic, Uncle Dave? How long for? Ever since I can remember.
15 years. By the way, I'd just like to point out that every year during NBA Finals time, when people put up the number two guy in triple doubles, who's played now twice as many games and still about 10 behind Magic, the people who are modern basketball fans who say LeBron's the greatest, I'd like to know how he has only about 10 less in double the games if he's the best. Magic, what's the answer to that? He's not the best. Thank you very much.
Also, what's kind of funny too with mentioning that Magic Johnson, he's a part owner in the Washington Commanders who just won a huge playoff game against the Lions here. So they've
And it's
Washington
always been
Commanders
a
are one game.
success. He turned
One
movie theaters around.
Yeah, he's just been successful, Magic, right, in everything he's done, hasn't he?
He's got the Midas touch. He's my guy. Uh, he's just got the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Joe, which, I'm not a Joe fan, but I'm a Magic fan.
Right.
So, my man Magic's over here. Um, I'll give him a seat back over here so we don't. Well, it's an NBA topic, so we'll keep him here.
Yeah, we're going to highlight Uncle Dave, an NBA team right now that it's kind of, I guess you could argue, kind of shocking here. The Phoenix Suns with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker are in around 500. They're 21 and 20, and they're currently the 10th seed in the Western Conference, which means if the playoffs happen today, they would not get in. And Gilbert Arenas on his show just said, he said, you have three guaranteed Hall of Famers. They should still be able to go out there and smack on people. That team is failing. So, Uncle Dave, not saying that you've watched a lot of Phoenix Suns basketball this year,
Actually, I
but
have because they have Grayson Allen.
right. Okay, so you follow the Duke guys. But
Yep.
this is just a bigger topic here. Just to show you how what the Heat did, honestly, with LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade was kind of impressive. You can put a whole bunch of
Sure
all
was.
stars together, and it doesn't necessarily translate into a dominant team or even wins for that matter. So, what do you think with this whole thing of you put a bunch of really good, multiple all stars together, and things just don't seem to mesh quite like? And Durant and Booker and Beal, they're all putting up their usual numbers, so it's not like they aren't producing, but it just goes to show you that, it doesn't mean that that's necessarily translates into success.
Well, they're all guys who can get their own, but that's the problem. All three
Right.
guys are the same. This isn't
Right.
fantasy. This isn't fantasy
A
basketball. I know
great
everybody
point.
thinks that.
A great point.
I, I said that 2 years ago on all the basketball sites I follow, but it's like this is an NBA title. I'm like, first of all, Beal's past his prime.
He
KD is
is.
wonderful, top 20 all time, but definitely
Yep.
past his prime.
Right.
And Booker, it can be hot and cold. That they're all great players, but Beal definitely past his prime.
Right.
I thought they added a Jones at point guard, but my point is, I think that KD knows he's not really welcome there, and I think if the Phoenix Suns got a great chance to move him at the deadline, they would.
Right. Yeah. And it's not like they haven't played in games. So they've played 41 games here. Booker's played in 36 of the 41, KD 31, and Bradley Beal 29. So it's not like they haven't been playing together all year. So, for I think it was last season, a large part of the year they didn't have Bradley Beal. So that's not an excuse this season. And
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
it just goes to show you that, maybe depth was a problem last year. Kind of you could argue maybe that's the case again, but they
Allen
got
got
some
hurt
good
last
guys
year
though.
too.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
Royce O'Neal, I like Grayson Allen. You got Nurkic, Mason Plumlee. I think they have some decent guys off the bench, but Bol just he hasn't played a whole lot.
no,
He's just looks like potentially a waste here. And it's kind of shocking when you have, like you said, Kevin Durant. I mean, he's a top 25 player, no question. And Devin Booker is extremely talented. But and Bradley Beal
yep.
in his own right, it's a good player. But like you said, he's not the same player he was when he was in Washington.
He's a volume shooter.
Yeah, so it's just I think what you've highlighted there is the big thing. They all kind of play the same way. And you don't really have a guy like Tyus Jones is a good point guard, but they could really use like an elite point. Like if they had a guy like Chris Paul, maybe just goes to show you they're not going anywhere, I don't think, right? At least right now. But with the way the West is right now, actually, they could potentially make the playoffs. It's kind of strange, the Western Conference right now. You really have four teams that are really good. The Thunder are elite team, no question, 35 and 7. The Rockets are 28 and 13, the Grizzlies 27 and 15, the Nuggets 26 and 16. Then the rest of the teams, I think it's a significant drop off after that. It's the Clippers, the Lakers, the Mavericks, the Timberwolves. I think none of those teams are a potential title. I mean, unless something happens to the top four teams
See,
injury.
I thought Jones would really do something for Suns because he's got the best turnover assist ratio in the NBA for a couple of years running. But it's like I said, it's a mystery. Obviously it's hard to say who's playing defense in the NBA and who's not with the numbers that are being put up every night. Someone feels like someone's scoring 40. So it's difficult, but at the same time, if you can get into that 7 seed, all you
You
gotta
can
do is
make a
win
run.
one game.
Yep.
And it's all about matchups in the playoffs. Back in the day, a 7-2 would rarely happened. All right, you had the Sonics, losing to the Nugs that time, but back in the day, and the Knicks beating the Heat in that 5-game series in '99. But rarely did you see two sevens. I mean, again, you had the Mavs with Dirk lost to
The Golden State Warriors
obviously.
with Baron
Yep,
Davis, Matt
yep.
Barnes, and
So
Jackson.
it
Yeah.
can happen, but rarely you saw that. Whereas now, I just don't feel like, since everybody doesn't play their best during the regular season,
Yeah.
I feel like upsets
The
are more
gap.
likely to happen. And
Right.
over
The
the
gap.
last couple of 5 years, we've seen more upsets because guys don't play their hardest during the
Yeah.
season. So the
The-
record
Yep.
is really a result of who's playing and actually which coach is pushing. So like right now, you had a great coach like Udoka, who's one of my favorite coaches of all time, got screwed out of Boston. And here's a guy that is going to push the Rockets. So, and since a lot of teams don't care, are they really as good as their seed? Probably not, but he's a pusher. And so they're going to get the most out of him. It's like when Tibbs was with the Bulls in the old days. Tibbs would get the most out of the Bulls, but were they really a 1 seed that year?
Right.
No,
Right.
definitely not,
No, they overachieved. Right.
because they're pushed. And Pat Riley was the same way, and Spoelstra's the same way, and Pop was the same way. I don't know about these days, but certain guys are going to push. They're going to do what's right, and those teams will overachieve. But then in the playoffs, where it's really such a crapshoot now because you don't really know who the best team is.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. We're at almost the halfway point in the NBA season. And Tyus Jones, what it's fourth, Uncle Dave, he's an 11-6 guy. He's shooting 47%. So I don't think it's not like he's not the problem. I think he's a solid point guard for them. I think it's just depth. And I think you said too much of the same. There's only one basketball out there. I think people have to remember that. So
Yeah, and
it's,
that's the problem that was last year. And Plumlee got hurt
yeah,
when he was going through a good stretch. But not Plumlee. Grayson Allen got hurt.
yes.
But the thing is, there is one ball. And again, defensively, Booker and Beal don't scare me. There's so many lightning quick guards these days. I mean, like, the way that the Thunder play defense, what would the Thunder, they're not going to be able to guard the Thunder, and the Thunder's going to be able to guard them.
Right.
So,
That's the problem. I think defensively too. I think they're not an elite team, so it's hard to be an elite team in the NBA defensively anymore. But the Thunder really are. If they get in a matchup with them, it's just I don't think you're gonna be able to score consistently on them, and they'll be able to score enough on you. So that's the
like
series
we said the other
basically.
day,
Yeah.
we talked about Michael Cooper the other day. They have a Michael Cooper on that team. That team's totally different.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a great point. Who's the lockdown guy that's on their team? Defensively, who's the dog? Like if they
Yep,
could use a guy like a Tony Allen so bad or a Shane Battier, really
sure.
bad. I think every
I
team
mean,
needs a guy like that.
KD's a great weak side shot blocker with almost 2 blocks a game for his
Right.
career
But
almost.
he's
But
not
he's,
locking down for most of the game anymore one on one
exactly,
defensively. No way. Yeah.
exactly.
And Devin Booker and Bradley Beal never were those guys.
No,
It's just I just thought we would highlight the Suns. We'll obviously keep an eye on them because they got a lot of star power for what it's worth. But at this point right now, they're on the outside looking in. So we'll see what happens
sure.
with
Well, they'll get in the 10-7 game, and if they lose, they're out.
right, exactly, yeah. Or they'll be battling for a play-in spot. So we're gonna see what happens with Phoenix down the road, especially Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, two of the top players in the NBA. So to see
Yeah,
them around
Kevin Durant,
500.
like I said, top 25 player of all time, not a doubt. He's scary matchup for anybody, but he's never been he likes to be the go-to guy on a team where he's not the man. So like he was great with Steph, even though it's Steph's team, but here he is, he's the man, and I don't know if he likes that for whatever reason. That's why I would say that about KD, I would put him in my all-time starting five. Not that he's an all-time five best player, because for me, if I put him out there by today's rules, if I put him out there with Bird, Magic, Mike,
Oh God, forget
and,
it. Yeah.
and Akeem or Kareem, and I'll just let KD go play the four and do his thing, I'm winning it because he doesn't have to be the man on that team. He'll go get 30.
Yeah, it was like ridiculous when he played for the Warriors because he showed what a great player he could be off the ball when he was
Yep.
with Golden State when Steph had the ball
Yep.
primarily. And then when Steph went down with injuries, he could still take over the game. I mean,
Yep.
he's just one of the all-time just great players, Kevin Durant, no question. He's a guy who would have been dominant in any era. So
Yeah, he's a guy that he's Dirk with a handle,
right, yeah,
and
just insane.
he's a modern day version of Bob McAdoo, about the same size. But this guy has got the greatest pull up jump shot I've ever seen. The thing about him is, like I said, when he doesn't have to, when it's not his team, he just feels free. And like I said, if I put him, I would, like I said, he's not my all time five best players, but if I'm playing by today's standards, I could put him on my all-time starting five
Yeah,
just
yeah, I think you
because,
have to. Yeah.
like I said, because I would free him up. I'll tell him, Bird, Magic, and Mike will make all the decisions, and Kareem, and you could just play.
That's kind of what he was in Golden State. He played
Yep,
off the ball and he just showed what a dominant player he could be off the ball too. So,
sure,
I mean,
great player.
you look at his career numbers too, Kevin Durant. They're just insane. I mean, his scoring averages. I mean, the guy's been he's been 26 plus a game for his whole career. Pretty much after his rookie year. So the guy's
Yeah,
going on now basically like 16, 17 years of dominance. And that's after the
sure.
Achilles injury and everything. People, talked about would he still be the same player? He showed he's still every bit as dominant still.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a different cat, and you know that because of the amount of times he was getting to the free throw line in his lifetime. So
and he's an elite
those
free throw
guys are
shooter,
different.
88% for his career. So,
Yeah, and the amount of times in the early days that he got to the line, those are the scorers. Guys like him, guys like Barkley, they're going to get to the rack, they're going to get their points. You can't stop them.
no. And what's kind of, when you look at his numbers too, he's a guy also averages 5 assists for his career it's incredible too. So, he's a willing passer too. So, he's just a
Guy
smart
was he
basketball
averaging
player.
8 rebounds for his career and almost 2 blocks
Seven,
too.
yeah,
He's
yeah, 7 rebounds, a block a game, and four and a half assists, 5 assists round up.
Yeah,
So,
so he does a lot more things in that weak side shot block than people realize.
yeah,
Maybe in today's game you could even put him at the five because
you could.
how many people are really posting up? It's funny. I kept waiting for the Knicks to make a deal for him. They didn't. It doesn't mean they can't, but I kept waiting because I know Phoenix for a fact. I know some people in some higher up circles who knew that Phoenix was unhappy and wanted to get out from under that contract. And well, I tell you what, if you're the Knicks, why not?
Right. Yeah, they would go crazy if that happened. My goodness, you can see
Oh,
they're
New
just
York
how
would.
excited New York is with the Karl Anthony Towns deal. For Christ's sake,
Sure, imagine having KD on that team.
oh, it'd be incredible. Yeah, no
But
question.
but I tell you, if I wouldn't count out the Lakers for making that deal either.
No. Well, again, LeBron too with Kevin Durant. I know LeBron, he's definitely not the player he used to be, but he still has enough gas in the tank where if you got a guy like Durant, that changes everything. That
Yeah, they're
gives him
winning.
another, or that, yeah, wouldn't that be a reunion there? That would be something that would spike the ratings, I think. A deal like that, I think
Sure,
for sure. Because if
sure.
you're
If you
Phoenix
put
right now, you're not
you
going
put him in Golden State, boy, they're gonna go right to the top.
no question. And that rejuvenates, someone like Draymond and Steph or LeBron and Anthony Davis, wherever he goes. If you add
Sure.
Kevin Durant to your team, you have a legit shot to win a title. You know that.
No, he's a stud. He's a scoring machine. It's ridiculous.
So, Uncle Dave, our next topic, we're going to transition to Paul George, all right, on his podcast.
Oh,
He
oh
said
God.
he said he's unsure if he's a Hall of Fame player. And oh, by the way, he said he's currently bored right now on the 76ers because they have him playing center.
Paul George is playing center.
I think it's like in practice they have him playing center, and also when Joel Embiid is not on the floor, they have him as stretch five. So he
They're
said
going
he's
small. All right, not a bad tactic to go small, and their coach is very creative. So if he knew anything about coach, how creative coach is,
right,
he might listen to that on the offensive end. Him playing the five is a great way to exploit other teams.
right.
If the other teams have a post up five, he might be in trouble. But again, most teams don't have a post up five. But the bottom line is he's bored in the Sixers. The Sixers are a team that nobody wants to see get healthy around March. Because I'm going to tell you right now, between McCain and the stud in the backcourt, you get Paul George healthy and Embiid, and you get him just the right amount of pissed off flavored in
Tyrese
there.
Maxey and Joel Embiid. If that
Yeah.
all gelled together, that would be frightening. It's
Yeah, you
true.
get McCain and Maxey and Joel Embiid and this guy motivated. I mean, it's hard, but Nick Nurse is an excellent coach.
He
You
is.
get this guy motivated, anything's possible. And Paul George is, I mean, the sad thing is he's going to put up enough numbers and people will vote him into the Hall because the Hall has very few standards anymore. I'm not trying to cut down Alonzo Mourning, but Alonzo Mourning never made a
I
big
know.
shot in his life and he's in the
It's
Hall of Fame. Great
yeah.
defender. Mitch Richmond's in the Hall of Fame, but he's scoring 22 a game for a bunch of years. So, I guess you could say that, but so he'll
Just
get in
highlight
the
Uncle
Hall,
Dave.
but
I'll highlight his. So he's a 9-time NBA All-Star, first one-time NBA first team, 5-time All NBA third team, most improved player, and he has 4-time All NBA defensive team. Those are his accolades right there. But he's
so
never
then you
played
got
in.
to put him in.
Yeah, so he's never played in the NBA Finals though. So
Yeah. When he
so
was on the Pacers, he was rough. He was on
yeah.
the Pacers, he was tough.
Oh, he was unbelievable with Indiana for sure.
Yeah, Paul
Um,
might be bored, but it's hard to be bored making that kind of money, I guess. But I guess that's what makes you bored. I just find a way to. I look at him and I just see like a guy that's going to regret it so much one day. I feel like he's going to look at his career and be like, even though Iverson played hard all the time, he's going to feel like Iverson felt like, man, I think I could have got even more out of myself. But then again, no league can you put up more hollow numbers than the NBA.
No, it's true.
And I'm not trying to disrespect guys like Alex English and Carmelo Anthony, but you could just put up numbers all you want, but they're not winning players.
No.
Carmelo won in college, everybody will say, but Jerry McNamara hit 6 threes that night. So, let's get crazy here. And then we have Warwick blocked a shot at the buzzer. But the bottom line is that's college. Uh, Carmelo never changed his body, never got better defender. He never had any interest in it. Like I said, Alex English, great player, but again, 22, 24, 25 a game some years. But uh, I know I'm going to get bitched at for this, but Dame Lillard, same thing. Show me something. All right, you had a great run, but then you went into the Warriors in the conference finals and you did nothing. So, I mean, like you carried him there. I'll give you credit for that. And I like Dame Lillard, very talented, but the NBA is king for a league where you can put up numbers that don't translate. And he's another example.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I have a pretty high bar for the Hall of Fame. If it was me, you have to have at least it's either insane numbers or you have to have at least some postseason success along at some point. And it's just Paul George, like, what's the big postseason moment for him? It's like the same argument you can make, like you said, for Carmelo Anthony. Now he's a compiler; he put up a ton of numbers, but
Sure.
it didn't translate at all into the playoffs. What's the big moment?
The reason I'll put Paul George in is because if you play both ends of the floor and he does, I'll put you
Yes,
in.
yeah, right. So
So
he's
for
the guy.
me, that's what separates me. LeBron fans to sit there and I said Mike's better than you on offense. He's better than you on defense. Those are only two sides of the ball I know of.
Right. Yeah.
It's like people bitch at Kobe. I'm not a Kobe fan because he's not a he
Great
forced
on
a
both
couple of
ends,
shots
though.
in his life,
Yeah, great
but
on both
all
ends, though.
defense like 12 times. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah, you
stop.
can't deny that, right?
The guy had a motor that just
Right.
just insane.
Yeah, incredible. So Paul George, he could still, I'm not going to say he still can't, have a championship here. The 76ers are
Sure.
still talented enough where they could still turn it around. So who knows
Oh
what
yeah,
happens with
they
them.
you don't
So,
want to you don't want to see them in like the 8-9, and then they get into the play, and you got to play a 1 seed. You just don't want to see that.
and I will say I do like Paul George. He's never been a guy who's been a locker room killer or a guy who's bitched
Nope,
and moaned. So
nope,
he's always been a likable player to me. I've enjoyed watching
sure.
him play. He's definitely someone very talented offensively, just a very smooth.
Loved him and Hibbert in Indiana.
Oh
Loved
yeah,
him.
no, those Indiana teams. I mean, they took the Heat to 7 games. I mean, they were
Yep,
really a tough.
loved him in there.
Yeah,
Loved him.
really. Him, Roy Hibbert, David West. I mean, that
Yep,
was
David West, one of my favorites.
yeah. If Danny Granger didn't get hurt, that team could have been a serious problem.
Yep,
Lance Stevenson was
yep,
on that team. George
yep,
Hill, a lot of fun to watch
yep.
that group for
That's a
sure.
really good team.
It was. It's one of those teams. It's like the Chicago Bulls. It's like the Utah Jazz. We're good, but just not quite good enough. So
Sacramento Kings.
yes, Sacramento Kings with Mike Bibby, yep, and Chris Webber and Vlade Divac, yep, same
Yep,
type of thing.
Turkoglu, Stojakovic.
Yep, absolutely. So our
Those are
next
great
topic, Uncle
teams.
Dave, we're going to talk about Anthony Edwards here. The NBA has fined him $75,000 and $25,000. It has to do with his conduct on the court and off the court. He had a profanity-laced tirade where he cursed a bunch. I'll quote him here. He says, it says during a live interview, Anthony Edwards says, "I gotta go get it, shit." What was he say? He says, Nikhil Alexander Walker found me. He cut me off. I'm like, shit, I'm going for the win. Like Gilbert Arenas says, I don't do overtime, so fuck it. So the NBA fined him $35,000 for that, and he also gave the finger to a referee off camera. So just wanted to talk about Uncle Dave. What do you think about the league with these type of fines? Do you think they're appropriate? Do you think they're too much? What do you stand on, player conduct and letting the players kind of, be themselves, so to speak, and
I think
not
it, I think the interview stuff is they shouldn't fine him for. He's just expressing I don't do overtime, so I give him credit for that. But at the same time, you can't give the ref the finger. Just give him a technical foul because finding a guy who's making that much money and who's that good, 25,000's a joke.
right.
They should make him give it to the players at the bottom of the league. That's where much money should go. Where I guess the disparity in the top and the bottom in the NBA right now is as high as it is any league in the country. But I have no problem with Anthony Edwards. He plays hard. I mean, obviously, you can't give the ref the finger, but then give him a technical foul. Let's not make this more than it is.
It's kind of one of those things where the NBA they try to operate in the gray area where you don't want it to be a situation where the players were allowed to just kind of do whatever they want, and then it kind of led to the malice at the palace type of thing where you got to police
Sure.
the conduct somewhat, but you can't let them get too overboard, but you don't want to come across as you're micromanaging these guys, so it's kind of a fine line. I think the NBA does, they do a decent job, I think, of it. So I just wanted to
Yeah,
get
but
your thoughts
I,
on that.
first of all, I think Silver's the worst commissioner there is because here's a guy who's trying
Yeah,
to
he's
put the
not
genie
good.
back in the bottle.
Yeah, he's not
You're trying
good.
to put the genie back in the bottle. You're talking about you're going to have to do something with the too many amount of 3 pointers. You can't. You can't screw with the game like that. It has to
No.
be generic. And then you're going to sit here and now you're going to try to get some control back. Well, just find people more money than that. And if you're not going to be able to do that, 25,000 is not going to work. At the same time, I mean, why 25,000 for Edwards? I mean, like, all right, so it's just crazy. All right, just give him a technical foul if you saw him give the ref off the camera. Like, whatever you got to do, suspend him for a game. Whatever you got to do, give him a game check, make him donate it to a charity, something like that. But like trying to put the genie back in the bottle on the craziness of the NBA, it's a little late for that now. I mean, this guy Silver, he's been a shill for the players the whole
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
and now you realize that the ratings are down 28%. So now you're trying to pull back. But what Silver doesn't understand is people don't play enough in these regular season games anymore. And two, ratings are down for every sport except for football, which is it's once a week. It's perfect. Uh, Even March Madness ratings sometimes can fluctuate these years. I mean, we've seen it over the years. Obviously, you have to have a draw like a Caitlin Clark, where whenever she's on, it goes up. But in the NBA as a whole, right now, LeBron's near the end, Steph's near the end. They're waiting for that next guy. It's probably a guy like Edwards, or could have been a Zion at this time in his life. But we've talked about that. He's not chosen to be that guy. Maybe a Cooper Flag comes in and does it, or Bailey from Rutgers. Or there's so many great players in the NBA right now. I just think that if you would make the guys play, I think you'd fix this product in a hurry.
I
And
think
you
the NBA,
allow
it's been proven now that they thought more scoring would mean more fan eyeballs, basically, and that's totally not the case. We have more
no, and
scoring now, and it doesn't mean more fans are watching. It's got to do,
but
I think you're missing physicality. I think you're missing creativity with the game now, as far as all the players. I mean, people would say it's creative now with all like the ball handling and everything now, but I think all the players play the same now. So really, you don't have a lot of creativity, honestly. You have everybody out there looking quite the same. So
and the other thing is in the playoffs, the ratings are excellent. Yeah. I mean, like they're not as high as they used to be, but then again, there's more channels now. So like, let's just be honest. There's no ratings that are like the ratings they were. So even on TV shows, people talk about, well, MASH is the highest rated. Yeah, of course. Well, there's less channels back then. When MASH's final was on, there's 25 channels. I know I was alive. So I mean, now there's just thousands of channels. It's just ridiculous. So I don't think we can get wrapped up in that. It's not Super Bowl's the perfect propaganda machine. This football game tonight between Ohio State and Notre Dame will be ranked really high,
right,
but I don't think you can rely just on these ratings. I think it's the quality of the product.
I agree absolutely.
And like if you would just let the defense be played like you do in the playoffs, I enjoy the NBA playoffs because they're allowed to play defense. But then again, I've talked about this for years on my podcast about how if you're not going to let them play that way during the year, these injuries pop up in the playoffs, and no sport is impacted. Even the NFL is not impacted as much by injuries in the playoffs as the NBA. And it's all because you can't turn it on and off.
Yeah. So the NBA finds Anthony Edwards, and that's, for his conduct there. So we'll see what happens moving
Conduct. I
forward
mean,
with
God,
the
he's gonna a grown man's gonna curse once in a while. Sure, shouldn't he do it? Nah, make him donate money to a charity. Just
right.
just get it over with.
All right, Uncle Dave, we're going to translate now into our
All right, Magic.
transition into our college basketball here. So, what did you see over the weekend, and what have you seen up until the last time we spoke here with the college hoop?
Oh, it's so much. It's just I hate to keep beating a dead horse here, but what's happened with these gigantic conferences? So Bama beats Kentucky the other
Great
day.
game.
Great game.
Great game.
So that's a big game. Houston looks legit. They squeaked by Johnny Dawkins, one of my all-time favorite Dukies, at his UFC squad. Creighton beats UConn. All UConn's losses have been to unranked teams. This is on Saturday. FSU gets a much-needed win versus Tech. Tech is looking like they're about to bag it now. They might be looking for the whole ACC might be looking for new coaches. Tech is 2-6. They expect a little more out of them this year. Louisville beat the Hoos. Virginia is in a place where they have not been in over
Quite a while.
15 years since Tony Bennett. 1-6. Clemson beat Pitt. Pitt has just played themselves right out of the tournament here. Pitt was 3-1. They've lost 3 in a row in the ACC. And again, people want to talk down the ACC. Is this down? Yeah, well, Pitt was 11-2, and then all of a sudden,
Tell Jeff Capel that, right?
yeah, right now they're 3-4. Auburn beats Georgia. Georgia's a top 25 team.
They are. Yep.
Georgia's a team that you do not want to deal with. Auburn is a great team. They're still missing the stud. Kansas over K-State, and just 2 years ago, K-State was an Elite Eight darling, and right now that coach is under trouble. Xavier beats Marquette. No way Marquette was the 7th-ranked team in the country. I don't care what anybody says. The Big East does not have that right now. They have very good teams. I'm proud of them, but SMU drops 117 on Miami. SMU can do that to you. They got 5 guys that can score to rock. Wake Forest deserves to be in the top 25. They beat Tech. Stanford at the buzzer over UNC with a former Dookie Blakes
Oh, what a
making
game that was.
the
Oh, I
shot.
watched that one. Yeah.
Yep.
How about that? Where the last second shot at the buzzer there, where
Old Duke player.
Justin Blake's, yes, is a
Yep.
former Duke player. How about that? Great shot too, by the way. A step back
Yep.
on the baseline goes the length of the court, by the way.
Yep.
Incredible. It looked
And
like
then
and Stanford, by the way, Uncle, it's the first time they beat UNC. Historically, we're 0-13 against
correct.
UNC. First win all
Correct.
time against UNC. So how about that for the Stanford
And
Cardinals?
yeah, it's good to see UNC lose if you're a Duke fan, especially at home. Good to see those bastards
We've been
lose.
on this with Hubert Davis right here. That's on the hot seat now.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, he had a couple of good wins in a row where he pulled out a couple, but we'll see. Carolina's a weird place that way. The Purdue Boilermakers very underrated. Beat Oregon. It's a great win. Florida beat the hell out of Texas. And so let me scroll down here to the SEC. So here's Texas. Okay, so before you just these conferences are just too big. We've talked about this a million times. Texas is now 1-4. I mean, good God, you were 11-2. You were cruising along. Texas is gonna get some heat. You know, Texas just re-signed Steve Sarkisian for a 7-year extension. I don't know what the whole terms were, but I'll tell you what, Texas, these people putting in money, they expect to win. So Texas, thank God it's Texas basketball that's losing us. You know, you just can't do that. And speaking of that, don't look now, but Arkansas is 0-5 in the league. And Cal,
Oh
the
boy.
experiment with Cal, Arkansas fans and Chop Suey and all this other stuff. Suey gonna crush Cal.
I
0-5.
know that they're the youngest team, Uncle Dave, in the SEC, but nobody cares about that. Don't
Nobody cares about excuses. Nobody does. Cal went out and got freshmen. Freshmen don't win it anymore as by itself because the guys are older now. The teams are older than they've been in the last
And his
couple of
defense,
years.
I will say, when he got the job, there was literally no one on the roster. But again, no one
Oh,
cares about
absolutely.
that. No one cares about that.
Oh, and I'm not advocating for them to give it to Cal, but you know that this is what happens. This
Right.
is what
They're
we talked
expecting
about. This
immediately winning from him. That's exactly
There's
right.
18 teams in the ACC, for example. That is just too big. So 9 teams are going to be below the Mendoza line, as we used to call it in baseball when you're hitting on 200.
We're going to talk about
NC
the
State,
tournament, how that you said if you're under 500 in league play, there's no way I want you in the
yeah,
tournament.
there's no way I could put it for you. But NC State 2-5 now. Thank God he got his extension last year. The Cuse beat Notre Dame. The Cuse, thank God, are getting the 3-4. Notre Dame having a disappointing year. I know they expected more. They're 2-5, but again, Notre Dame having a solid year, and then all of a sudden ACC play comes, and here you are. You know, you're having a solid year, and now boom, you're going to get whacked.
That was kind of a wacky
Yes,
ending there at the end of that Syracuse game there with like the
yeah,
illegal screen at the end there. I don't know if you saw the end of that one because of the
yeah.
football was on at that point. The NFL playoffs were
I watched the basketball over the playoffs. I have to be honest with you.
yeah.
The
I was
college hoop to
back and
me
forth.
means so much more, and I can watch, and I can go back to the NFL. If I see a score on my phone change, I'll go look up the play.
Right.
But for me, the college hoop is paramount.
Where it's
Plus,
at, it
I
rules
love
the
I,
roost.
I love preparing for the show. It's something that I
Absolutely.
check.
No, it's
I
great.
check in on all the games. Mississippi State beats Ole Miss. Great game. Ole Miss is tough with Chris Beard. I wonder if Texas wishes they had Chris Beard back. I think you do.
Texas Tech.
So that BS. Well, Texas had him too.
Yeah.
Texas had him for that
Both
year,
of
and then
them.
they did that BS lawsuit where his girlfriend charged him with assault. Turned out that she dropped the charge.
They're both kidding
So
themselves, right? For
yep. So I'm a Chris Beard fan. Duke crushed BC after a while. BC put up a good fight for a half, but the Cooper Flag train keeps moving down the track.
wear them down. Yep.
Michigan State with a big win over Illinois, and Maryland beat Nebraska. Nebraska has played some really good games and just cannot get a break. So you sit here and you look at Nebraska playing good basketball. I've watched them 3 times in the last week, 2-5. Northwestern's lost 3 heartbreakers, 2-5. And
Oh,
Ohio State, which over the years has just been tough as nails, 2-5. I mean, look at this stuff. USC having a decent year, Iowa a decent year, 3-4. Penn State tonight is playing Rutgers. Rutgers is sitting here at 3-4. They're trying to climb back in, and they got to go play Penn State in a nut cutting game. Penn State loses tonight. They're 2-6. You won't hear from them again. This is a great year for Penn State. They were 10-1, and now
yeah.
you're 2-5.
Yeah, we touched
Rutgers
on.
got two lottery picks. They're trying to get back in it tonight at 4-4.
I
Those are
know
my
it's
guys.
incredible, right? I know it's just every game is just it's a scramble and just a dogfight every game.
Yeah, and Maryland, and I hate to keep repeating myself. Here we are. This is just like these leagues are just eating themselves. I mean, it's bad enough to have like 12 teams in a league, but when you have 18 and 19 teams in a league, do the
Can't do it.
math.
Yeah.
Do the math. Unless there's 5 teams with 1 win, half your league is under 500 in the league. You're cannibalizing your own opportunities.
And you know what? It doesn't look good either. It just does not look good when you have that many
Oh,
teams,
it's
like you
awful.
said. Yeah, it's an eyesore, honestly. Yeah.
It's awful. And then today, my guys at Stony Brook just can't get out of their own way. I'm rooting for them. Hofstra with a tough loss today for Speedy Claxton. But going around the league right now, um, Queens College down in Charlotte, little known program. Florida Gulf Coast to them. There's a four-way tie at the top of all 5-1 in the Atlantic Sun, which is a very underrated conference. The Bryant Bulldogs, your Uncle Larry's school, 4-0, still getting it done. Hoping to find a way. There's some really good stories out there. Memphis, 4-1 with Temple with a big win over the weekend. I was surprised to see that. In the Atlantic 10, George Mason getting it done, and obviously Duquesne has had a little resurgence here. Obviously, the ACC, we know about Duke and Louisville, obviously 7-1. How Wake Forest is not in the top 25 is beyond me. SMU is legit. I've been saying it all along. Iowa State, you know, 15-2 overall, 5-1. Arizona Wildcats having a good year. The Big 12 had some big games. Kansas just blew out K-State over the weekend. St. John's with a big win over the weekend. Now in first place in the Big East. It's 7-1. Coach Pitino, obviously, always a great coach, one of the best coaches of all time for my money. Obviously, the Michigan State and Michigan are both big time teams this year. They're going to fight it out for that big time Big Ten title. I'm looking forward to that. Cal Irvine Anteaters still getting it done at 7-0. You better watch them come tournament time. I'm telling you right now, don't want to see those guys. College Charleston Cougars getting it done. William and Mary, a bunch of really good basketball being played. And my man Quinnipiac getting it done 7-1, and the Merrimack Warriors 6-1, changing leagues. They're in the MAC now. It's amazing how good that league is. That league is producing some really big games. New Mexico, obviously 7-1, getting it done at the top. LIU, my alma mater, 6-0 in the top of their league. Really loving the Northeast Conference. I'll be rooting for the LIU Sharks come March and early March. I'll be watching those great games. Colgate is what else is new? 5-1 at the top of the Patriot League. This could be the eighth time in a row for Colgate, and coach just keeps doing a great job there. Keeps winning, and some things never change. He's just one of those guys that keeps on winning. And Sun Belt, we got at the top of the Sun Belt. We got Southern Alabama, always good. And the St. Mary's Gales are out there with Gonzaga, 5-2. A little down for Gonzaga this year. St. Mary's Gales, 6-0. Obviously, San Francisco, the days of Bill Russell, 6-2 in their league. That's just going around the horn, and exciting to see these teams be good and watch these lower levels, these lower conferences of basketball. Very exciting.
Stat, Uncle Dave, that's absolutely insane for Alabama. They're 32% shooting the ball from three, and they're 200, that's 248th in the nation, and they're almost averaging 90 points. And
They've
Jay
scored over
Billis,
100 4 times this year.
yeah, and Jay Billis said if they were able to pick up their three-point shooting a little bit, they might be extremely deadly, and they're fourth in the nation right now. So they're a team right now. They might have another gear left in them if they get their
They do.
three-point shooting up
You,
at
you
10.
have Sears, and you have the skinny post player at 6'9". I think his name is Hanson. They have some tough players there. Coach is a great coach. Coach Oates gets it done. This is going to be a crazy March. It's going to be about matchups, though. You know that some teams going to try to junk up St. John's. Tonight, Georgetown's playing Villanova. That's going to be a big game tonight. And like I said, Rutgers playing Penn State. I'll be watching that. I know everybody else is going to watch Notre Dame and Ohio State, but I'll be flipping back and forth between the other two games because to me, it's a great time of year. Mike McSloy, like I said the other day, old point guard, went into Division III Coach of the Year at Drew. So they're in first place. They want to get on Saturday. They're in first place in the Landmark Conference, which is one of the better conferences in D3. St. Joe's getting a couple of wins here locally, trying to change it up, trying to shake it off. Adelphi's having a good season as well locally. So it's a great time of year. We're getting in the middle of January. People are going to start to separate now. You're going to start to hear more bubble talk. And I'm sorry, if you're 2-6, I don't want to hear about you making a tournament in your league. I don't care.
It's also, Uncle Dave, just some of my notes from this Alabama and Kentucky game. Grant Nelson he shoots an air ball in the beginning
Yep.
of the game, and then he has 12 straight points. He's a guy. He reminds me
He's
of like a
done.
Ryan Kelly for like Duke.
Yep.
He's one of those kind of guys. With the
Very
strength
good
behind him
player.
and
Finishes
everything.
with both hands. He reminds me
Yeah,
of the kid from Gonzaga a couple of years ago.
and
Not as big, obviously.
Amar Yori, they have like the beast down low, the rebounding guy
From
blocking.
Rutgers. The old Rutgers guy. Rutgers could use that right now.
Oh boy, yeah. So it
He,
just goes to show you how this game. Alabama also, they started the game against Kentucky 4-5 from three, then mixed the next 12 shots from
yeah.
three. So just goes to show you how shooting the ball, it's an optical illusion here. So
Well, it's funny because Oates believes he's a math teacher by heart, and he believes in pace and pace of play, not only
Oh, they're
threes,
so
but
much fun to watch, Alabama. They
yeah,
really are. They are fun
yeah.
to watch.
He really believes in the mathematical equation of pace, and so I got to give him credit for that because I have to agree with him sometimes. There's been a lot of teams over the years, Redlands, Grinnell College, and Division III level. They believe in playing at such a pace where they want to take a shot in the first 15 seconds. Now, I don't know if I could do that, but a lot of teams that play with great pace, it is a difference thing because if you're not ready for that and you only have a day and a half to prepare for that, you cannot simulate as a coach. Myself, for many years, when you have 1 or 2 days between league games, when you have to play someone who does something totally different than everybody else, that is such a disadvantage to have one day to prepare for.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, Uncle Dave, did you see the end by any chance of the UNC and Stanford game? Did you watch the
Yes,
end
I
of that?
did. Yes, I did.
So Stanford's Ryan Agarwal, he drives and he looks to kick the ball out and he loses the ball and he basically the ball and him travel about 3 feet. Is that to you a travel or not? Now the referee would say it's not going to be a travel because he doesn't have possession of the ball, but UNC fans are going crazy because they thought he traveled and they wound up getting a foul on that play.
Well, to
Stanford
me, this
getting
is a
free
call you
throws.
see a lot because to me, you already had possession of the ball. So whether you lost possession of the ball, so basically what you're saying as a
You can
ref is,
juggle
and
it
the
down the
refs are,
court, right?
yeah, basically I should juggle the ball the whole time. Now I never have possession. So this kid traveled. I mean, I'm glad to see UNC lose, but that's a travel. So you're telling me if I want to keep going, if I pull out my dribble, I should just start juggling it? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's like people say, "God didn't have possession of the ball." Well, what's possession? He's got
He
it in his
drove with
hands.
the ball. He had possession. Then he's
Yeah,
juggling it. So what
yeah.
is that then? Yeah.
So the UNC fans, I have to hide my despair for them. I just can't stand them. But at the same time, I think they were right. I mean, the kid did travel. I mean, what are you going to say? You could lose control of the ball, but then you can't. It doesn't matter if you want to do that. We could never have that rule. Then you could say it all day long. Never had control of the ball. So to me, that's a little bit of a farce. The kid obviously, you can't have people driving to the basket and losing the ball and then going, "Yeah, I still have it."
Yeah, it
So
was
to me,
absolutely a
it's
crazy game.
it's a crazy game, but at the same time, UNC shouldn't be in that game with Stanford at home. But then again, Stanford has a couple of good wins right now. Stanford's
I tell you what, Uncle
accumulating wins.
Dave, the big fella, Maxime Reynaud, I think he's an NBA
Oh yeah.
player. He's an
Well,
NBA
he's the Frenchman is definitely that saying he's a top 10 pick if he comes out early. He's got a game. He's got to
averaging
mix
Uncle
in a
Dave
meal.
21 points on 50% shooting and 11
Yeah,
rebounds. He'll be drafted.
yeah, yeah. He's got to mix in a meal. But then again, in today's NBA, where centers are built
No,
like
I know. You
toothpicks,
don't have to really
maybe he
worry
doesn't
about
have
that
to.
as much. Yeah,
That's why I always laugh when people go, the modern day player is bigger. Obviously, they're not. If you go back and look at the average height of the player from the 60s to now, this isn't the tallest decade. And it's definitely not the thickest decade. I wish these
no,
fools
no,
who think that basketball was invented in '03 would go back and look. Look at the centers back then. Who's built like Karl Malone today? I mean,
nobody,
he was a power forward. Who's built like that today? Who's
nobody.
built like David Robinson today? I mean, Jesus, these guys, I mean, Gobert's your biggest guy. I mean, come on, bro. Stop.
Yeah, right.
I
I think
mean, all
that's
right,
the thing people don't talk about. It's not just the height in basketball; it's the thickness and the strength that these guys have
oh,
too. It's like
Hakeem
even a guy like
Olajuwon was
David West,
strong
Uncle
as a
Dave.
house.
He was a guy. He was a power forward when he came to the NBA. He would be the strongest guy in the NBA now. David
Anyway,
West.
Moses Malone was a beast. I mean, like Patrick Ewing was big. Shaq was just a
Yeah,
force I've never seen before.
the centers back then were behemoths. They really, truly were.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
like,
guys
what are
weren't
you
just
doing with
tall; they were
Shaq?
jacked. They were built.
Yeah, so if Shaq drop steps, he might break you in four. I
Right,
mean, so like, like it's just ridiculous. Like, yeah, he's got to cover you on the other end, but he doesn't have to cover Rudy Gobert. He's just gonna
right,
stay in the paint. Screw Rudy Gobert. So
right.
the bottom line is like these people talk about like, oh, the centers are so much better today. No, they're not. Joker is a top five center for me all time already. But then again, on today's NBA, he can get away with some of the things he does. Back in the day, he'd have to play defense.
Right, right, right.
These
So that
guys
would be
today
an
are
extra
all
challenge.
are all lob catchers. All Joker's got to do is use his extreme intelligence. But he is a top five center, but he doesn't have to play defense today. It's a different game today. Joker is
Absolutely. With the exception truly of him and maybe an Anthony Davis, you don't have to defend the block on any of these other guys. No way.
no, no, you don't. And he's a freak because he's a guy that is him and Bill Walton, the best, and Kareem, three of the best passing centers I've ever seen in my life. But at the same time, he's a guy that just, he's a great shot maker. He takes really hard angles, really hard shots and makes them. He's just so skilled. But the defensive end of the floor will never know because he doesn't have to do it.
Right. So the big fella for Stanford, I think that's definitely a draft pick. We'll
Oh,
see him play
definitely.
in the association, I think, for sure
Definitely.
next year. So, yeah, Uncle Dave. All right. So, what do we got moving forward here for the rest of the week? Or any games that you definitely want
Oh,
to
so
highlight?
many good games. Let me click over to my schedule here.
Let's inform the viewers
Excuse
here of
me.
what we'll be watching.
Is my face still on the screen or is my schedule on the screen here?
You got it up. I'll put it up. In editing. I'll
No,
put it
it's all right. I got
up.
it.
Okay.
I got it. Okay, so like I said, tonight we got the double dip, but then tomorrow it all kicks off because they're smart. They don't want to go fight and fight against football tonight. Big one tomorrow night, Mississippi State at Tennessee, Butler at UConn, although Butler's not the same right now. BC and Virginia. Hopefully Virginia can get a dub because both those teams really need one badly. Some Marquette at Seton Hall, though Seton Hall's really in some deep trouble. Missouri going to see if they can follow up with a good win and try to go to Texas. Louisville at SMU is a sneaky game you got to keep an eye on. Wisconsin LSU tomorrow night, also another game you got to keep an eye on. It's as Big Ten play continues. On Wednesday, the rest of the league's trying to kick off a little bit, and they start to play again. Florida at South Carolina. Although South Carolina's had a bad year, that will not be an easy game. St. John's hosting Xavier. See if Patino can keep it rolling. Syracuse at Clemson, be a fun game. Indiana and Northwestern, both teams are in a little bit of trouble here, but both playing well and playing close games. Although I should say Indiana did get blown out twice last week by 30, so I can't say that. A&M and Ole Miss, the game of the night on Wednesday. That is going to be a blast. You know how I feel about A&M coach Buzz Williams, one of my favorite cocoaches there
Yeah,
is.
you've always liked him. Yep.
It's just a great coach. His team's just always overachieved. The minute he leaves Vatech, they're not the same. It's the same old crap. I would love to, he was one of my guys. If they didn't give it to Shire, I wanted Buzz Williams, but I think he's too crazy to them to give it to him.
You know what he
Wichita
reminds me of, Uncle
State.
Dave? He reminds me of like Thibodeau. He's like that kind of
Yep.
personality.
Yep. Wichita State. Where's Greg Marshall? And nobody wants to hire Greg Marshall. You want to win games? Go hire Greg Marshall. Wichita State now is nothing since Greg Marshall
I
was
know.
left.
They were
And
they
people,
were a tournament team every year with him. Now all of a sudden
yep.
crickets.
And they were a second weekend of the tournament team every weekend, every year. And people want to talk about who they should hire, but you know what? You want to hire? Go get Greg Marshall. All right, well, get him some sensitivity training. Hire his ass. Maryland at Illinois is a big game. Illinois has got to pull it together here. That's a big game on Thursday. Some of the lower leagues got some good games here. Stetson and Eastern Kentucky is a decent game. My guys at Stony Brook got to get one versus Campbell here. I'm hoping for that big time, big time dub. So the rest of the week we got some good games, and then this weekend is obviously the behemoth of all weekends. You're going to have so many good games, and soon we'll have that Duke Carolina game. That first matchup will be there. Villanova at Marquette on Friday night is the game that I'll be watching, obviously. Michigan at Purdue, I'll be checking in on that one on Friday night also. Those are two big games on Friday nights. The Big Ten has a couple of Friday night games on Fox.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. I think we'll wrap up there, Uncle Dave. All right.
Yes, sir.
We'll see. We'll definitely we'll touch base hopefully again at the midway point of the week here because right now we're
Sure.
college basketball is flowing and the NFL and college football is wrapping up. So basketball
Absolutely.
will
It's
be full time now with or especially for me watching. Definitely as the show has progressed here, definitely
yeah, well,
getting into more
the football will be done in college tonight, so the rest will be college and NBA basketball, and
good stuff.
it's a blast.
Absolutely. Yep. So and then we'll like I said, we'll be kids in a candy store once we get into league tournament time. So
Oh
everybody's right
God,
now
yeah.
is fight. So Uncle Dave, with the all right, we'll say this. We'll touch on this here before we wrap up. Do you think we'll get to a point where you're going to have to qualify for your league tournament with how the sizes of these conferences are, or do you think we'll have automatic? If you everybody's
Well,
in a league tournament.
as you know, unfortunately, if there's a dollar to be made, they're going to make it. But there are some leagues where you already have to qualify. I know it sounds crazy to say this, but D3 has a lot of that where not everybody in the
To
league
be a certain,
qualifies.
yep, it's true. Yep.
The Ivy League, only four qualify, which I love. I love that. That's why I love watching the Ivy League tournament. To me, it's one of my favorite tournaments. It's the first time they've only had a tournament for a couple of years, but it still feels like there's some purity there. The problem is when you have an 18 team league, letting everybody in just doesn't fit the schedule.
Right.
So this is what happens. So like if you have 18 teams in there,
It's
how
going
are
to
you
take a
going to do
while
that?
for you to finish your conference tournament, right?
Right, you're going to have four teams play while 14 sit out to get down to 16. So like what are you doing? Starting on a Monday after and finishing on a Saturday? Like you can't do that. So they're going to have to make some concessions here. These leagues are just, again, they want to make the money, but let's be honest, the 16-17 matchup in the ACC, now the ACC is the oldest tournament in America. They'll probably find a way to get people at that game, but I'm telling you right now, the 17-18 matchup in the Big Ten in the Bulls Arena is not filling up the building. I'm telling you right now.
No.
You're losing money that day. You're not filling it up. You get down, they're going to have to start bringing these back to maybe the top 8 teams in the league or maybe the top 12 teams in the league because it's going to make the scheduling too long, and then you're going to mess with the perfection of Selection Sunday. And if you ever mess with that, whoever just comes up with that stupid idea, I'm going to just want to go smack them in the head because Selection Sunday is Americana. Everybody gets a bracket and people flip out.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
then, but if you start messing with that, and that these fools think that money just grows on trees, I'm telling you right now, it's like these idiots who give out these NCAA tournament sites. How many times you see these sites in like Tampa empty, and Tampa gets this freaking site every other year. Meanwhile, it's been up here in New York only a couple of times, and it's sold out every time.
I know.
Nassau Coliseum 01, it's popping. Then we're at the Brooklyn place a couple of years back, 2016,
It was
popping.
great. It was
But
great.
yet you don't want, but
We
yeah,
saw
but
four
yet you won't
games.
bring
It
it
was
up.
fantastic. 4 games.
Yeah,
It was
but yet,
great.
yeah, we saw walkout. Remember how good walkout was?
Yeah.
So here we go. You have all these games. Put it up in New York. People go. New York's a basketball place. I mean, Tampa, Florida isn't. But
No,
you put basketball in New York, people show up. Remember when the ACC tournament was at the Garden? How much people were all over Brooklyn? Remember how many? That
it
place
was.
is nuts.
It was great.
So, but you gotta put it in place. Like I'm hoping the Islanders arena, UMB, the little
UBS
arena
Arena.
here.
Yep.
I'm hoping that thing gets basketball because I'll tell you what, I'll just sleep on the train. I'll get right off. I'll never go anywhere else.
I said,
But
when you like you said, the 17 and 18 game in the ACC, someone like you would go and watch that, no
oh
question.
yeah, yeah, I'll go watch it. But my point is, put these games like this year's games for the NCAA tournament are in some decent spots that you can get to. But there's so many years when you're watching these 12 o'clock games and they're empty, and you're saying to yourself, why is it empty? Why are we putting it here?
Right.
Put it in a smaller place that has a basketball following. New York is a basketball place.
Yeah.
You put that thing anywhere near Manhattan or Brooklyn, it's filling up.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Basketball fans in general will just go and watch it. Doesn't matter if
Stick
it's
it in the Kentucky arena.
right.
You put a basketball game in somewhere. I don't care what part of Kentucky you stick it in.
Right.
Someone's going.
Right.
Same
Sure.
thing with the Carolinas. I don't want to hear about sticking it in Florida. I'm sorry. Nobody gives a crap. All right. So
Right.
they're all people who are transported down there. They're all people who are like half of them are original Floridians. The other half came in. They're not made like that. It's not the same place.
No.
Put it in New York. Put it in Kentucky. Put it in the Carolinas. People are going to go. Stick it in Kansas. People are going to go. All right. You're going to put these games out here in California or something. I'm sorry. It's just not happening.
No.
You got to put it where there's diehard basketball people. Carolina, New York, Kansas, Kentucky. Put them there. Put
That's
the games there. People will lose their mind. Like, we went a couple of years ago up to Albany, and it was good. Albany had a good little crowd up there, and that was not bad.
I thought
But you
Brooklyn was
got-
perfect. That was perfect. With the
So
Nets
good.
play.
Nassau Coliseum in 01 was absurd.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think
So good.
maybe they could learn something. The selection committee, maybe the tournament committees here.
Oh,
Listen to the show.
you gotta send them a copy.
That's it. Yep. All right, folks. So basketball fans, may the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Till next time.
Magic.